Welcome back, Razi B, and all of you to our episode number 2 with Razi. And our first episode was on embracing conflict. I hope you watched it because it was incredible. And today we want to talk about making our own decisions. So, I mean, that sounds so simple, doesn't it? We need to make our own decisions. But I have watched many of my clients and family members and so on who, whenever there's a decision to be made, they turn to someone else
Mm,
and they say, "What do you think?"
mhm.
And so it takes, and a lot of I believe the reason why people have difficulty making their own decisions is because they're afraid of making a mistake. Is that true?
Yep, yeah, and it's interesting. I was like watching. It's I'm forgetting her name. It's Dr. Z. I'm gonna go with Z, and Claudia Wyatt. Like they did like a series of talks, right? And she actually said a great thing, and it's like mistakes are mistakes, right? Because you miss.
Oh,
I was like, oh my gosh, that is so fascinating. Like,
I like
how did
that.
I
Yeah.
right? And it's like it's a mistake. And I think like when we practice making our own decision, it's like embracing that, okay, I'm gonna miss a take, right? Just like when you're doing them like actors like do it practicing for a movie, or even us as coaches, like practicing like our craft and getting better at it. We're gonna make mistakes and then we're gonna learn from it, right?
Yeah.
And something that I have experienced that helps me with making my own decision is getting clear on my goals, right? Being very clear on this is my vision. I literally like paint it out. What do I see? What do I feel? What do I taste? What do I smell? Like what's in my environment? Right? And it's like there's that why factor. And then it's like, how do I go about like getting to my vision? Right? Like, why do I need to get to this goal that I've set? How am I going to get there? What are the different steps I need to take to get there? Who is going to help me to get there? Right? Because these are all like our own decisions. Like, who's going to come to this party to get me to my goal? And then also when do I want to get there? Like when, like, maybe it's like 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Like one of my long-term goals is to open up a school. I'm not sure like where it's gonna happen, and a non-traditional school. So guess what? I like painted like, okay, this is what this looks like. And I work towards it. And then there's other goals that are in the way before I get there. Right. But I think when we're very strong on like a why am I here? Why do I need to do what I need to do? It strengthens that making my own decisions. Because let's say, for example, it's very seldom that I actually ask people for advice. Like I'll have like a conversation like, okay, what have you done like in your experience? So like an example, before I wrote my book, my first book, Leading Your Truth, I connected with like over 30 different authors online because I wanted to understand what was that experience like for them, right? So that's part of me painting the picture of what to expect when I step into this journey, right? And it was so fascinating, like the different relationships that I built, that I'm still in like very close relationship with these people, and how they've supported like my path, right? I think, and it brings me back to like, like the reason why I'm coaching experienced writers is I think everybody should tell their story, because
Yeah.
it just makes our world a better place. There's more
Mhm.
people knowing that they're not alone. But again, I'll come back to like making our own decisions. I think it's rooted in our why, and we're able to be confident and have that courage to make our own decisions.
Well, when you were talking about, we talked about self leadership in the first episode, and now we're talking about, writing books and so on. And when you write a book, because I've written many, as I said, uh, that you're really writing for yourself first. It's healing, right? It's a self healing journey.
Mhm.
And if others can benefit from it, hey, that's even better, right?
Mhm.
And it kind of takes the ego out of saying that, I've written a book, because it was really about you were writing it for yourself first. This whole thing about goal setting also. I've mentioned this before in the podcast where I was coaching a professional, and it was a lawyer, and she came on to the call and she said, Beth, can you teach me how to set goals? And here's a woman who'd been through university, law school, and was working and had, pretty high level job, and she's not sure about how to set goals. And so you're bringing it forward today. It seems simple. Well, all you need to do is set some goals, and that helps you to make some decisions around how you want to implement those goals. But this woman had no idea how to set goals. So we spent a full 90 minutes just working on how you set goals and how to measure them and so on. And she walked away very happy. But it just goes to show you, we think goal
Mhm.
setting is simple,
Mhm.
but not necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And Betska, sometimes too, like it might take a whole year to create those goals for the next year. Like I
Mm,
consciously, like like it's because it's your life, right? It's the
yeah.
next steps that you're taking. And
Yeah.
like you shared, it's not like, yeah, first we do it for ourselves, but it's so
Hmm.
much more than that.
Hmm.
Like like when I think of even, like my youth mentorship program that I run every year, this is the second year. It's if I'm not clear on why I'm doing this and what is the possible outcome, who am I like influencing? Like who am I inspiring like through this path? If I'm not clear on that, I'm
Hmm.
gonna actually mislead people.
True enough. Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, you could. Hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
Wow, very important. So it's a responsibility to humanity, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is. It is. Yeah.
So what we're talking about here is when we're setting goals. This is my assumption that what we're talking about here is when we set goals, we have to make decisions, and from all of that, we are knowing ourselves. We're learning how to know ourselves. Yeah,
Yes.
which is kind of a
Yeah.
cool thing, right? Where again, it seems so simple, but it's just vital to our growth to be willing to know ourselves. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's yeah, it's scary. It could be scary. Because it's like I'm just thinking of grief, right? Like how grief just like it opens you wide, like you're so vulnerable, right? And you really have to, like, from my experience, I had to go inwards and I still remember, like my first few therapy sessions that I went to my therapist to talk about my grief that was happening. And we didn't even talk about like that grief. We talked about stuff from my childhood because it's like
Hmm.
that root, right? You got to go
Hmm.
back to the root. Like what
Hmm.
what happened there that stemmed off with like all these things that are coming up, right?
Hmm.
And a significant thing that came up, it was like I felt alone, like within myself for such a long time,
Ah,
especially
yes.
like leaving home at a very young age, like 'cause as a result of the civil war in Sierra Leone. And I never actually dealt with that. That,
Ah, yeah. Hmm.
when I lost my husband, it that came back up and I was like, "Oh my gosh, here we go again." Right? And that was
Hmm.
an indicator for me. I was like, "I need to deal with this like head on. Like I need to face this and deal with it." It's
Hmm.
it's so beautiful like for us humans to be able to experience this
Yes.
and
Yeah.
help ourselves like before we're helping others, right? Like, and it brings me back to that pouring from a full cup, right? Pouring from
Hmm.
a place of wholeness. And that could be described in so many different ways,
Right.
right?
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been listening to this incredible woman named Razzie B from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and who is a leadership coach, book coach, speaker, and best-selling author of a couple books. And in these two episodes, we've been presenting some powerful messages on embracing conflict, not be afraid of them. In fact, really move into them to figure out what is this all about, even if you have to go back to your childhood and find out what's going on. We've talked about making our own decisions, setting goals so we can know ourselves. We talked about motivating ourselves, and we also talked about a little bit about celebrating our wins, our small wins, and having a celebration board. So Rosie B, you are an incredible woman. Thank you for being here with us today. We love you, and we hope you'll come back. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?